Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing May December. This was directed by Todd Haynes. I love Todd Haynes, and I've always been really intrigued by his work over the years, and this one having that persona, Ingmar Bergman type of angle to it, it got me very curious to see what kind of spin he would put on that material, because obviously that film, Persona, and the concept of it has been interpreted by great filmmakers in the past. The premise, though, of May December is a complicated one, a tricky one. It takes place 20 years after a romance between a 36-year-old woman, played by Julianne Moore, and a 13-year-old boy. They were caught, she went to prison, and eventually she was released, and the two remained together, and now they have a big family. And in the story timeline, that initial romance took place in the early 1990s and was quite the tabloid sensation. But now they're making a film about it, and Natalie Portman is the actress who is hired to research the family, because Natalie is going to be portraying the woman, the Julianne Moore character, for the eventual movie. And so the whole concept of adding that movie angle, that Hollywood angle, to the meta deconstruction, I actually really like as an entry point for the story. Just because, just for myself, I've always found the act of trying to recreate a historical event, or something that has taken place in real life, it's just, there's something very, very strange about that. Particularly in Hollywood, the way we do biopics, the dramatization of these sorts of things, I find it really absurd. I feel like it's weird for an actor to not acknowledge how strange it is, and yet a lot of the time they act as if it's completely normal. Like if I'm playing George Washington and I have the teeth and the wig, and I'm reciting his actual lines that he said in real life, and I'm standing in a set that is meant to look exactly like his bedroom, and I'm with a woman who's dressed up just like his wife looked. It's trippy, man. It's existential as hell to me. And like, for example, I reviewed the biopic Maestro very, very recently, and if you saw that review, you know I pretty much hated it. And the whole time I was watching May December, I was thinking to myself, gosh, I would love to see a movie like this made about the making of Maestro. Now that would be an interesting movie, where you have Bradley Cooper as the Natalie Portman character, and he's coming into the house to meet the Bernstein children. Then I think we would get a real sense of what motivates this sort of thing on a more, like on a deeper level, especially filtered through Hollywood and through all these delusions of grandeur. But yeah, the premise, I think just because it's so heavy, you've got a lot of ways you could weave it into something even more dense, especially when you add all of the romanticism of reality angle there. The difficulties of portraying people who are still living is a huge, huge part of it. There is a lot of pain and potential humiliation when it comes to sacrificing the truth for creative liberties. How cinema, stories, cinematic interpretation forces what is real and what is dramatized to blend together in some sort of weird way, and then it gets turned inside out. Because it is a Todd Haynes film, the sense of atmosphere here is just so on point. It is so perfectly authentic and thick with unspoken meaning. I love the camp in this movie, just the artificial sugary sweetness of it all. It has a very Douglas Sirk type of feel to it, where the artificiality, of course, is part of the commentary. You learn, I think, more from the characters based on what they don't say and what they don't do, which I think feels quite human just in terms of writing. Every scene is dripping with tension, and it feels like there is some seed at the center of this movie. You can feel it from the very first frame of the movie, that there's something here, and it connects everything together, and it is just slowly eating away at things from the inside. And the way that it builds, it's building, 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 and you're just so interested, you're so desperate to know what's going to happen, what is going to happen at the climax of this film. But at the same time, the film is just so delicious in terms of the way that it's using that tension, that it's like, no, I don't want to know what the climax is yet. Take your sweet time. I'm enjoying this. And as I said, the film just always has this very faux, this very packaged, glossy feel to it, a thinness. And there's always this weird kind of sharpness and tartness in the humor. And I don't know, there's just like echoes of like true crime podcasts and that kind of drama. That feeling, that arousal that it evokes in women. You can feel it like just in the subtext of the film. And it's never being too forced about it, at least for the most part. Overall, I really liked the film. I mean, especially the first half of it. I loved the first half of it. And I think even maybe a little bit more than that. It's dark and it's painful and obviously very titillating. And I was enjoying watching all the pain sort of spin out in very unique directions depending on the character you're watching. I feel like the ending was a problem, especially the climax of the movie. I feel like the movie is rising, 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 and then it just kind of drops off, and it doesn't feel very satisfying. And so naturally, all of the detail, the richness that we've built to this point starts to feel less compelling when you look back at it, or when you see everything with, with perspective. Natalie Portman, though, I really like her in this movie because you know, she's obviously meant to be the audience surrogate. So a lot of the exposition you can disguise in the writing, you know, just through her in those early scenes. Yes, she is an actress, but she's obviously doing research, and we are too. We're trying to make note of all of these things as audience members. She is a detective of sorts, trying to find, you know, the keys. I like that we really don't know much about the Natalie Portman character, and we get hints of it, but, you know, not a full picture. And in the first half of the film, that is very mysterious. I know I am notorious on this channel for talking about how much I struggle with Natalie Portman as an actress, but quite honestly, I think this might be maybe her best performance I've ever seen. She's always been an actress who's really reactionary. I think she can evoke emotion in a way that's really powerful, and she's obviously very precocious. She has a wiseness beyond her years, or she did when she was younger. But I like her now a lot more. She's in her 40s, and it's like she's experienced a lot more life, and you can see it in her face, and I feel like she fills her characters with that a lot more. I like that her voice has gotten a little bit lower. There's something sexy to her, and there's added edge. I always struggled with her transition from, you know, being the white swan to the black swan in the movie Black Swan, and nowadays, I feel like she would be much more convincing going over to that dark side. And I think because this role in May December has that sort of meta angle where she's playing herself, but she's not at the same time, I do think that helps her. But I like, as an audience, we don't know what she thinks about anything, and we really want to know what she thinks, because it's clear that she's independent and she has, you know, a certain level of intelligence. But regardless, of course, we want to take the ride along with her. But slowly we begin to see, and, you know, one might suspect this, I think, from an actress, but her interest in the material, well, I'm sure it's genuine so far as, you know, she's interested in the psychological stuff of it. Ultimately, it's more about her and what she can gain from it, and how she romanticizes it. She cannot disconnect the story aspect from the real people, from reality, and that gives her not only a sense of control, but allows her to kind of condescend to them in a way. Because you're not quite sure what she is yet, and the way she slowly builds to that, it's subtle, and it's really, I think, mature acting. You sense a calm and collected person, but she's also very removed. I've always kind of felt removed from Natalie Portman as a performer as well. So again, I think that also helps her. And again, I think because of the richness of the world building, just the atmosphere of everything, the sense of identity here is so strong. I think that helps the actor. So slowly, a lot of these revelations, we're just chipping away at them. It could be just something in the background. It could be just like a throwaway line or a mannerism, but it's like you feel like every little thing here is important. It all connects. It's like we will never know a lot about these people. We will not know the truth about their past. We have no idea what's going to happen to them in the future. And it's like we don't necessarily need to, because their behavior gives us enough here to chew on. Though I think when it comes to the big problems I have in the movie, they come when it comes to the writing of the husband character, the character of Joe. It has nothing to do with the performance, because I thought the performance was wonderful. Again, like Natalie Portman, it's very subtle. And all of this in contrast to the more shrill kind of external quality of Julianne Moore, which is also, you know, she's also fantastic. But I don't know, I like the Joe character just because there is a beauty to him. And I think he's the most introverted. He's the one who has to hide the most of any character, I think. So much is brewing on the inside that he cannot show. It cannot come out because he's never really been trained to be able to do it. And so all of that melancholy just sits there. And I think that's the emotional center of the film. So we really need to be able to feel all of that kind of brewing inside him. And again, we have to remember, because he was 13 years old when all of this started, it's like, how does one grow up in that situation? What changes about them? How do they experience the world compared to, say, me? It's got to be a deeply destructive life, you'd think, but it's like maybe they're not aware of that in the way that, you know, you might be if you had more autonomy. Just, again, the repression of it. And while all of this is very powerful, it just doesn't pay off in the story, because the tension here and the emotion, it's like, you know, something is building and it's going to be released. It's just like, when is it going to be released and how? But once it is, it just feels kind of, yeah, more like a whimper. And I feel like there's a lot more unanswered questions than I wanted. And the Natalie Portman character, how she serves the husband here, you know, she's working in two ways in the movie. It's like she's revealing the truth to the real people around them about themselves indirectly through her interactions with him. But then ultimately, of course, she is the one sensationalizing the truth. She is that contradiction. And so I guess I wanted more of that to come out in the climax somehow, where that identity and facing this truth must be put to the test for Joe a lot more with that interaction. Right now, it feels like the emotions are kind of just hitting a ceiling, and I want them to keep growing, and they're not. And there's something about that that does really feel frustrating. I've always been fascinated by the idea of art revealing more truths than reality. And again, that's usually very indirect, but while you can see, you know, ideas there poking through, I feel like they could have played with it a lot more and bring in elements of that through the Natalie Portman character as the actress. Have that conflict maybe more in the second half, maybe. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. Because the conclusion I said at the beginning, it's just less compelling than a lot of those early setups would lead us to believe. So when you look at the big picture, I don't think the movie is saying as much as it thinks it's saying. Again, the way that it's presenting all of that is really amazing for the most part, but yeah, I just wanted more. But yes, I am going to recommend this movie, despite my frustrations with it, because I just think it's really compelling, again, especially in that first half, and this is obviously a really, really great filmmaker. You have really fantastic performances here, a fantastic aesthetic, it's got an intriguing mood at the base of it, and yeah, I think it's entertaining. Some may be more annoyed with the climax than others, but you know, that's up for you to decide. So yeah, that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website. As always, it is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits and I sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons, who are great, guys. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.